Sign here. James Chancer's cold, deep voice broke the silence as he slid the divorce papers across the table. Sarah looked up at him, managing a bitter smile. So this was it. No wonder he'd surprisingly called this morning to say he'd be home tonight, wanting to talk. She'd been happy all day, only to find out this was what he wanted to discuss. 3 years of marriage, coming to an end. Sarah Sanders took the papers with trembling hands, her voice barely a whisper. Do we really have to divorce? James frowned as he studied the woman who'd been Mrs. Chancer for 3 years. She must have just finished cleaning. Sweat still glistened on her forehead, exhaustion and confusion evident in her eyes behind those thick glasses. Gentle and modest, but utterly plain. This unremarkable woman had been Mrs. Chancer for 3 years. James' tone leaving no room for argument. Just sign it. Charlotte's back, and I don't want her to get the wrong idea. Sarah felt a bitter taste in her mouth. She knew exactly who he meant. Charlotte Garnett, James's first love. The one who got away. For her sake. Their marriage had been in name only. For 3 whole years, James had stayed faithful to Charlotte's memory. Worried she might refuse, James added coldly, it's an uncontested divorce. Given your limited education, you'll get the mansion properties and cars. I'll also add $80 million as compensation. They'd only married to please his grandfather, with a prenup in place. What James offered far exceeded what she was entitled to. Though he never cared for her, Sarah had tried her best these 3 years. The extra compensation acknowledged her dedication, especially since she'd need support after divorce, with just a high school diploma. Sarah understood his meaning. After reviewing the papers, she quietly nodded. All right, I agree. She signed her name smoothly, looking at James through her thick lenses with an expression caught between bitterness and resignation. Don't worry, I'll move out in a couple days. I won't get in your way. James nodded. Thank you for everything these past 3 years. Despite how plain and boring she might be, he had to admit Sarah had been a good wife. She'd taken care of his entire family while he focused on his career, letting him pursue success without worry. But in the end, you can't force love. Sarah found it darkly amusing. After giving him everything, wasting 3 years of her youth, all she got was a simple thank you. James didn't notice her bitter smile as he took the signed papers. His assistant called, and he glanced at her. I have work at the office. Ask Mrs. Watson's if you need anything. Sarah nodded. As James left the study, his mother anxiously met him in the living room. How did it go? Did she sign? James frowned slightly, then nodded. His mother sighed in relief, delighted. Thank goodness. These past years since you married her, I've never felt at ease. 3 years without a child. Always so quiet. Who knows what she was really thinking? James stayed silent. His mother continued. I opposed it when your grandfather insisted you marry her. What good could come from an orphan living off the Larson family's charity? Now it's sorted. Once you marry Charlotte, I can finally relax. Only someone like Charlotte deserves you. James's sister Lucy nodded eagerly. Exactly, brother. Having her as a sister-in-law was embarrassing. Now with Charlotte as my sister-in-law, everyone will be jealous. Sarah listened to the conversation outside the study, her eyes downcast. During her years as James's wife, she had given everything to her mother-in-law and sister-in-law Lucy. When Lucy had her car accident, Sarah had stayed at the hospital for days. She'd always shown nothing but respect and care for Mrs. Chancer. Yet it seemed no amount of devotion could change how the Chancer family saw her. Shortly after, Scarlett Larson called, her voice tired. Sasa, are you sure you won't come? You used to love hunting outdoors, and you'd get to race cars too. Sarah froze. Memories she'd buried deep came flooding back. Before marrying James, she'd loved hunting, racing cars, and good wine. Then she met James at the Larson estate and fell head over heels. After falling for him, she learned through others that James preferred gentle, trad wife. So she'd gradually given up everything she loved. 3 years had passed, and she'd almost forgotten who she used to be. On the other end of the line, Scarlett continued rambling. Sasa, if you don't want James to know, you can keep it from him. There's no need to give up everything for a man. Besides, James. We're getting divorced. Sarah cut her off quietly. Scarlett seemed stunned, then took a deep breath. Did you finally come to your senses? Or did James lose his mind? Sarah gave a small laugh. He asked for it. I agreed. Scarlett was speechless, thinking James must be blind. The Chancers should have counted their lucky stars to have someone like Sarah, and now they were divorcing? Congratulations, babe. Scarlett's voice turned excited. I'll pick you up soon. We should celebrate you finally seeing clearly. Sarah hung up with a bitter smile. She looked around the master bedroom, which showed no signs of being shared by a couple. After 3 years of marriage, it might as well have belonged to a single person. It really was time to end this. Sarah went to the guest room to pack her things. She didn't have many clothes after marriage. She'd stopped caring about her appearance, so packing didn't take long. She removed her wedding ring and placed it on the bedside table, her eyes reflecting a mixture of regret and relief. As she pulled her suitcase toward the door, She passed through the living room. She thought she should at least say goodbye to her former mother-in-law, but Lucy's bitter voice cut in first. Someone is finally leaving. Know your place, hanging around our family all these years just for money. You're nothing but a sparrow trying to fly with the eagles. Sarah stopped in her tracks and, without hesitation, grabbed the glass of water from the table and threw it in Lucy's face. Drenched from head to toe, Lucy exploded. Sarah, have you lost your mind? How dare you? Sarah calmly wiped the water droplets from her fingers and replied coolly, I dare plenty. I might be a sparrow, but I still have claws. Lucy stood there speechless, clearly shocked that this was the same Sarah everyone had pushed around. Sarah found Lucy's surprise amusing. For 3 years, no matter how harsh Lucy and Mrs. Chancellor had been, she'd done everything perfectly to please them without complaint. She'd always been gentle and patient, quietly enduring their bitter words and anger. They'd forgotten that before all this, Sarah had been wild and free, drinking, fighting, and living life on her own terms. She'd put up with enough. No more. Sarah let out a soft chuckle.